Before, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, only the big companies were thinking about a strategy such as this. But eventually, mid-sized companies started thinking about it and putting operations in the nearshore basis in Mexico and in other countries. And nowadays, you can see even smaller companies, smaller teams being set up for different reasons in our region.
Welcome to HotSpot by Intugo, a space where ideas, professionals, and enthusiasts converge to discuss subjects that are relevant to the improvement of businesses and their people. For today's session, we have invited our own VP of Business Development and co-founder, Arturo Rodríguez. Welcome, Arturo. Happy to have you here.
Thank you, Monica, for inviting me to your show. Happy to be here too.
So, Arturo, I'd like to begin with a little introduction to the nearshore concept. What do you believe is the meaning of nearshore for this type of services?
Well, nearshore is a word that came as an alternative to the very used word offshore. As we all know, offshore means off the coast, usually thinking somewhere beyond the ocean, in Asia or in Europe, etc. So nearshore came as an alternative saying, hey, we're close, we're near. And that's how the word started being used, and particularly in services, not necessarily only in manufacturing, which was the case with offshore.
Okay. And why does it make sense to inquire in a nearshore strategy?
Well, the outsourcing initiative, the doing something in another country became very popular so many years ago. But one of the things that became difficult also for companies to manage those operations was the fact that time zones and distance was difficult to manage. In the nearshore option, that's very different. You're in the same time zone, you're in the same region, you can talk to people during the same waking hours, so that makes sense. Operations usually that require that think that a big plus opposite to another alternatives.
Thank you. So, we're in Mexico, right? So talking about Mexico specifically as a nearshore destination, put it that way, how would you say that cultures are aligned?
That's a very interesting question because cultures in the US in particular and in Canada and in Mexico are very similar. All the way from religion, schools, types of engineering, language schools, sports. In Mexico, people follow the same teams as in the US. So we can all relate to so many things between our countries. So when you translate that into work, that helps a lot in creating the right culture in the company, creating the right culture in the factory. That helps. So it's kind of the same way of working in a way nowadays, 20, 30 years later. So people are used to US standards or Mexican standards or Canadian standards. That helps engage, as you say, in the operation or in the creation of teams when you need it.
So in your opinion, what kind of companies take the most benefit by incurring in a nearshore strategy?
Well, as I was saying before, interaction in some operations is key to productivity, to engagement, to really feel part of the same company, the same team. So when you can do that in the same time zone, that's a key factor to be able to do it. It's easier to say, hey, I have a problem in some operation, or I have a problem in one of my sites in Mexico, and being able to fly the same day and being there with the people on the same day, solving a problem, solving a challenge. So the kinds of companies that need that, really, it really makes sense to have a nearshore operation.
Basically, you're saying that any type of company based on its size, let's say small, medium, or large company, could actually be thinking of a nearshore strategy.
And that's exactly what has been happening over the last few years. Before, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, only the big companies were thinking about a strategy such as this. But eventually, mid-sized companies started thinking about it and putting operations in the nearshore basis in Mexico and in other countries. And nowadays, you can see even smaller companies, a smaller team being set up for different reasons in our region. So yes, definitely any type of company from any type of industry that needs the type of talent you can find on a nearshore basis can think about this.
Got it. So let's say that you met with a VP of operations or with a operations manager, somebody that's in charge of making sure that the productivity and the efficiency of the company is up to the expectation. But they're suddenly struggling with finding the correct talent. How would you recommend that they address this issue, really?
Well, it's a global competition. You have competitors from all over the world. So now you compete for talent from all over the world. So it makes sense to consider the nearshore talent as an option to increase the capabilities, increase the productivity of your operation in the US or in somewhere else in the world, or even in Mexico if you want to expand into that region. So companies, what they need to do is to assess what kind of talent they can get. There's a huge pool of talent of different capabilities, different backgrounds, different experiences. Some of them already have worked a lot with US or international companies, so you can find a lot of talent. But the important thing is that the company can assess that and say, hey, yes, I can find the talent I'm looking for, and making sure that that talent becomes part of their team.
Got it. Yeah, I mean, that's definitely a very interesting approach, right? The world has become closer, and working with people abroad is now easier than before, definitely.
Correct. As we all know, for different reasons now, remote work is a fact. The hybrid model, the remote model is a fact. So that makes it easier for you to have a remote team, maybe on site, in a site in Mexico or somewhere else, or maybe on a remote basis, but now you have the tools to do it in a very productive way. So that's not a big challenge anymore because now that part of the equation is solved.
Yeah, I mean, that even sounds very exciting. You're now able to find the best talent possible because your options are wider.
And it makes sense for companies, but it also makes sense for the talent themselves, because now you have more options where you can work and be more productive in things you really like. So that makes a difference in the productivity. So that's part of the reason why we say you should look for a global team, or including a nearshore team, because you can find the talent that really likes what you're doing, and you don't have to stick only to the original or the usual pools of talent where you were tapping talent from.
So Arturo, as you all know, my background is in HR, right? So I'm gonna poke you for some insights that I'm sure every HR person is interested in. What would you say is Mexico's current position before a world that is growing more conscious over diversity? I want to understand where the culture is standing, but for items like women's place in the workplace or diversity in the workplace, right? How do you feel Mexico has been evolving, and what are some common traits of a workplace that you will find?
Again, very interesting question, because that's part of the things, or you name a few of the things that have been happening all over the world, but in Mexico in particular, and in Intugo in our case in particular. Women are every day more and more involved in everything we do, and work is not the exception. I can talk a little bit about the market, but I can talk with more knowledge about our own company, Intugo. In Intugo, there are more women working in the company than men. There are more women working in the senior management than men. So it's a fact that women are there, that women are participating in a very strong way, in a very productive way. And we're a good example of things that women can accomplish in the market or the talent market in Mexico. I think that that's also the case in a lot of companies in Mexico. So that's something that creates an environment where diversity can be, by definition, a fact in our company. And not only that, all the aspects of diversity we try to take into account and bring people together of all sorts. In general, in our company and in general in our country, I think that the trend of that diversity aspect in the marketplace is becoming a reality.
So based on everything that you've commented, obviously it seems like it's very attractive to incur in a nearshore strategy. But I'm assuming, if I was the one taking the decision to implement this in my organization, I would be kind of scared, right? So tell us what the downside is or could be. So what are the things that could go wrong? What do I need to be aware of?
Well, a lot of things can go wrong if you don't do them correctly. And usually companies, people, managers know what to do things correctly in a business, in a company. But sometimes they think that because of the operation being away or far away, it can be managed by itself, right? So that's the first thing to avoid. If you are going to create a team, if you are going to create an operation on an nearshore basis, and I guess anywhere in the world, you need to get involved. You need to get the right people there. You need to get the right supervisors in terms of quantity or in terms of quality. You need to get managers involved and everyone aligned to the same goal. Sometimes that doesn't happen. We've seen it. In our case, we've seen cases that happens. When there's not alignment, when there's not commitment, we like saying you need to burn your chips. Everybody needs to get on board and to the line and make it happen. When you have that mindset, it usually works very well and becomes part of the company. So I would say that will be the main thing to avoid, not having the right commitment.
So let's say that the decision is taken, we're gonna make this happen, but then comes the golden question, right? I'm taking the risk, and at the end of the day, I wanna know, is there really enough talent? So what's your opinion on that?
Of course, it depends on the type of operation you're in. The operation will run smoothly, the operation will run well, provided that you're looking for the right type of talent. And of course, Mexico has a great pool of talent of different types of schools, careers, experiences, companies, great pool of talent. But we don't have everything. So you need to make sure that the talent exists. Anything related with engineering, anything related to manufacturing, anything related with IT, anything related with customer service, anything related with accounting, back office, administrative activities, you will find a lot of great and experienced talent. I also like saying if you're looking for astronauts, well, you're coming to the wrong country. We don't have that many. So you need to make the right assessment and make sure that exists. And if it does, it will run very well.
So I think it's easy to assume that there are more success stories than not when a company is trying to incur into nearshore. Why do you think this is? Like, what's driving the market? What's making it happen? And why is there more and more interest each time in this type of business context?
It has become a virtuous circle. Companies started coming, they started doing well, and more companies came looking to have similar success. But on top of that, over the course of the years, there have been many factors that sometimes help, sometimes don't help that much to the solution, to the nearshore solution, if you will, or to the nearshore option. Right now, we all know about the geopolitical situations in the world, and people trying to bring some operations from Asia. We all know about what happened after COVID. Companies were having problems finding talent for different reasons. So that has helped increase the virtuous circle. What we know for a fact right now is that nowadays all types of companies are considering a nearshore operation as an expansion of their team. Some because of cost issues, some because of talent issues, not being able to find talent, some because of geopolitical issues. Everyone has a different reason maybe to consider the option, and a lot of them are taking the next step to do it.
Thank you for sharing your time with us today. There's definitely a ton of value in the insights that you've provided. I'm looking forward to future discussions.
Thank you for inviting me, Monica. Great to be here.
Thank you for listening to us today. We would love to read your comments. Please like, share, and follow us. See you next time.